What if you were to listen to an internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning illusionist, and he had something far more to say than, "Watch this trick"? Rick Thomas is that performer, ready to go far beyond his magic and far beyond your imagination as he shares secrets regarding our dreams. Dreams that can become reality. The future belongs to those who believe in the strength of their dreams. Dreams pass into the reality of action. From the action stems the dream again. And this interdependence produces the highest form of living. Join Rick and his co-host, award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo, for Nothing Happens Until You Dream. Indulge your mind and take a journey never to be forgotten. A journey connecting all of our dreams as we chase them together.
So, Rick, my friend, master illusionist that you are, we disappeared again, huh?
Yes, I disappeared across the country touring, and there were times when I tried to get to a microphone and tried to make contact with you and say, we've got to get this podcast going. It was absolutely, virtually, unequivocally impossible. I could not. I was so busy performing and setting up each show that I ran out of life.
Well, we got to talk about all the places you went because it was crazy. But one thing that happened behind the scenes while you were traveling all over the place is we won an award. This is now an award-winning podcast. We now hold a Platinum Muse Creative Award, which is a big wow.
As you can tell, I'm extremely quiet because I'm speechless. It is a big award. In fact, I wrote a newsletter. I sent it out, and I'm going to send another one out because I don't even think, I didn't realize when I sent the first newsletter out how big it was. Yeah. And now that I do, I'm going to send a second one out to tell people, hey, this is bigger than I thought. And maybe, Tammy, you can kind of share with the public what this Muse Award is, how international it is, how many people are involved, and really what takes place.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I'm not great at keeping secrets. Okay, especially when they're going to make somebody happy. And I have been sitting on the fact that we were entered for this since late October. And I
did not know.
No.
I did not know.
No.
You kept it from me.
I know. And I have tried very hard not to tell you multiple times, just to say, So I succeeded, which is great. The Muse Creative Award is an award that's given out each year, and it's given out across, all of the different creative channels. For audio and video and for podcasts and for music and for all sorts of things. So it's for international creators. This is a worldwide competition. And what they're looking for are people who are doing something unique, something special, and doing it above the norm, above the bar, taking it to new heights. Basically become, it's called the Muse Award, basically become inspiration for other people.
Muse for others.
Yeah, to do what they've been thinking about doing. Because so many people say, someday I'm going to write a book. Someday I'm going to write a song. Someday I'm going to do a podcast. And then they don't do it for whatever reason. Generally think, I can't. And this is to say, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And there's a gold Muse Creative and there's a platinum. And we won the platinum. We won the highest one there is.
The highest award.
Yeah,
that
which is crazy.
Me. I kept looking at it and going, wait a minute. Wouldn't gold be it? No. Platinum was it. And what I enjoyed was actually going online and literally looking at all the awards.
Oh, yeah.
From the different categories and those that won the awards.
Yes.
We're not talking just a fly-by-night show here or there. We're talking about movies, television, video games. The finest in the industry are winning these awards. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the real deal.
It is.
And it came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere for me.
I know.
And it was. This
was the
this
plan.
is not, it's not, no, it's truly beyond my expectations. And I'm thrilled that we literally were chosen among, I can't even imagine how many. I think I heard there was 75,000 different applicants.
That's about normal
for all the categories.
That's about normal because I've been dealing with Muse Creative Awards for about the last 5 years now. That is about normal. I knew that they were going to announce the winners on this particular night at 1 a.m. So I stayed up And I kept on checking the website.
Now, okay, what I appreciate is you didn't tell me, but what, in all honesty, I mean, I know that once we won the award, you said, I had no doubt, or I knew this was feasible, this was possible. In all honesty, I don't see it. I didn't see it. And then you said, oh, no, Rick, you have no idea. So, I mean, why did you feel that way? What put you over the top regarding the podcast and why you felt confident in this?
The episode that I used was, yes, she really does have a tiger. Okay, the one about your daughter saying at school, sharing at school that she had a pet tiger at home and the teacher not believing her and you telling the teacher, hey, you better believe her because she does.
That's right.
I thought that was our strongest one because the tiger whisker wasn't out yet, that episode. That episode hadn't happened when I entered this way back in October. So I knew that episode was funny, inspirational, had a lesson in it because you told that teacher, don't doubt people. You never know.
Don't doubt.
Right? You never know.
Right.
So I knew it had all of those elements in it. It was just a perfect episode. I love the intro and outro to the podcast. That is some of the best audio production I've ever heard. I take no responsibility for it.
Thanks to Eric Chase.
Yes.
I just had to do a plug for him.
Yep.
He has been with me for one of my largest contracts when I was, just in my 30s, was out in Guam. At the Sand Castle, and he was actually doing work for other casinos in Las Vegas at that point, and I heard his voice, chased him down, and said, would you be willing to do work for me and my voiceover? And ever since then, he's been the voice of God, call it right, the voice of God behind my show, and of course my new show, Mansion of Dreams. So everything that you hear, everything that leads and guides you through the show beyond my voice is Eric Chase.
Yeah, and he's fantastic in the show. And we were so lucky to get him on the podcast. So I knew that when the podcast opened, the judges would be wowed right from the start before you and I even started to talk. But also from the response we've gotten from people about the podcast. It came on the scene and immediately became very, very successful. A lot of people are loving it. I know we have an awesome podcast here in all ways, and I had great faith in it. I was not surprised. A platinum, maybe, but I wasn't surprised we won. I wasn't surprised we won. A platinum
maybe a bronze, copper, or nickel. But platinum.
That was like almost too much to hope for.
Yes.
Because that is the top. And the trophies are really cool with this one. They're very creative, as they should be.
And we can't wait to get them. They're beautiful.
They're neat. Beautiful. If you want to see all the winners, everybody can go on the site and go through all the winners. And they will be doing an interview with you and I that'll be on the site soon. There's some other publicity that the awards does for its winners. But all you have to do is go to museaward.com and just click winners. And you will see and hear all the winning entries, including ours. So you can go check it out.
Thanks
there you
again.
go. So now it is an award-winning podcast. Ta-da. So, okay, we got to give people a rundown of where you've been, because you've been just about everywhere.
Working in Branson and performing here gives me the opportunity. It's seasonal. January, February, part of March, they kind of close things down. We have just actually reopened for our season. And it gives me a chance to once again tour the world. When I was in Vegas, I was doing 2 shows a night, 6 nights a week, 52 weeks a year. Oof. No vacations, just constant work. And so what did I do? I went on my tour and I went to Vegas.
Of course. What else would you do?
I went and performed there. And so grateful. I was actually at South Point this time around. And lo and behold, I went on television when I got there and did an interview and noticed that there was a lot of people doing a lot of card tricks in these grand theaters now. I'm like, why are you doing card tricks? It's Grand Illusion. So I thought to myself, I said, wouldn't it be awesome if I went on television and said, okay, I'll do a card trick so I can fit in with everybody else, but at the same time tell them that when you come see my show, you're not going to see a card trick. And when I did that, it went ballistic. Every one of my shows sold out.
Brilliant.
Didn't sell out, just sell out. We had to add seats.
Oh my gosh.
They were overwhelmed with the success of the show once we hit Vegas. And I was just thrilled, honored to be back home. So many people came and saw me. Good friends from the past just kind of appeared at the theater. And it was just a grand reunion for myself and many people.
Fantastic. That is awesome. And then you traipsed on down to the Magic Castle.
Magic Castle. That's where I started. I was 21 years old when I became a member of the castle.
Wow.
And in fact, this time around, my introduction was, my dear friends, I was 21 years old when I became a member of the Magic Castle. And now it's just a few years later and I'm back. And the audience just laughs because admittedly, it's not just a few years.
Right.
But that was the point.
Okay.
I just wanted to just casually tell them that I call the castle home and had the chance to perform there and then just run back as fast as I could to reopen the show here in Branson.
And the Magic Castle to me is just, I'm not a magician, not even close. I know how to do a few very badly performed little tricks. But to me, that's got to be almost the height of it to play there. And when you first told me you played there at 21, it was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding. That's incredible.
I think that it's just a full circle. And I went to the castle because who knows if I'm ever going to have a chance to perform there again.
Yeah.
I have a saying in my mind every time I walk out on stage. I say how lucky I am to perform at least one more show. And thinking back on my career and my travels and performances across the world, to go back to the Magic Castle and to stand on that stage and present where I am now from what I was. And at the age of 21, I thought I was pretty good. And then, believe it or not, we did have video then. I had videos of myself.
Oh, do you really?
And oh my goodness. Let's just say it's best that nobody watched those videos because you change and you're always your hardest critic. But oh my goodness. I thought I had talent then, but
well, you had enough
nice
to play the Magic Castle at 21, so you obviously are a little better than you're giving yourself credit for. But
that's right, a little harder on myself than
I have listened to some of my very early on-air attempts, which is all they can be called. And even though it was live on air, it's like, holy cow, how did I keep my job? Yeah, but at the time, it was good enough. It was good enough to do the work. Right. So, well, a wild couple of months for you and an award for us, which is really kind of cool.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yes.
And I know that we've been having a bit of a chatter to start this off again, but it was our best way to catch up with each other and tell you how much that we truly embrace you and appreciate you listening to the podcast.
Yep.
So let's get it started.
So we've just heard about your travels, but something I didn't know about you before I read the book is you've been on Broadway. And I don't mean just driving down the street. You've performed on Broadway. Holy cow.
Yes.
I've never even been to a show on Broadway. This is amazing. I didn't know this. I read this chapter going, how did he sneak this in? And I never knew. This is great.
You know what it is? It is demanding of yourself to follow your dreams no matter what.
Yeah.
Did I ever think I would finally make it to Broadway? Well, in my mind, I would say yes.
Yeah.
But
reality.
I remember my manager, Mr. Larry Lee, years ago when I was first in Las Vegas. He said, getting a showroom in Las Vegas is like winning the lottery. Don't ever forget that, Rick. There's so many people out there fighting tooth and nail for that opportunity, and you have it.
Right.
And I think that's the same for Broadway. There are so many amazing people and so much talent out there fighting for the theaters and trying to perform actually live on Broadway. And to give that opportunity to myself and actually present was a dream come true.
Now, Tara was in this as well. It was called The Illusionist 1903. Oh, to go back to that era must have been amazing. Magicians were a super big deal in those years.
They were the biggest deal.
Wow.
I know it's hard to wrap your head around this, but they were the biggest acts in the 1900s. In the early 1900s, there was no television.
Right.
There were no radios. There was only live theater. And they had comedy. They had skits. They had dancers on these vaudevillian stages. But those that drew the most people, those that everybody spoke about and raved about were the illusionists. They were, without doubt, the biggest superstars of the entire world. They were the Houdinis of the world. So when you have these magicians performing Grand Illusion in that day and age, you must remember also, this was pretty much the first time people saw Grand Illusion where they saw somebody actually float or fly in the air or disappear and appear somewhere else. Imagine seeing that live for the first time ever, not in your life and other people talk about it. I'm talking anybody. If you lived in the 1400s and an airplane flew over your head, you'd probably kneel down on your knees and start bowing before it and praying.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. I'm just saying. Okay, these are the kind of things that happened with magicians in the early 1900s. So when they performed it was a big deal. So the concept was created, Illusionist 1903, where there were magicians who were quite successful in our own careers, getting together and recreating as though we were the superstars of the early 1900s and performing a show as it would have been then.
Oh, I would love to have seen that. Wow.
It was a hit.
Wow.
And also it's fun. Everybody in the cast were seasoned professionals. This was not modern, new age, kind of hip kind of show. It was extremely elegant, stunning costumes, and the illusions were grand. And I remember when we all got around the table to discuss the script and how this was going to be presented, everybody at the same time reached down and put glasses on to read their scripts. And I thought to myself, I looked across the table and I said, yep, we have all aged.
Oh, yes.
And aged well. But it gave me a reason to write this particular chapter, and that's don't rush to judge. It's very basic there, but I will say that the statement I want you to remember is always be a little kinder to everyone because you have no idea what they're going through.
It's true.
And as I discuss this chapter, you'll kind of understand it further on how I judged people and truly misjudged someone, and it didn't hurt them, it hurt me. And I think it's important for you to realize that if you misjudge others, you really are hurting yourself, and it's going to infect you. And I think that as I share this, you'll understand.
I do want to point out Tara was in this with you.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, she looks gorgeous.
She was the muse.
She
was actually the muse. Yeah,
Oh,
she was the
my.
muse in the show. I actually wore a mustache.
Yes, you did.
And
Looks good. No, it looks good. I'm looking at it because, again, if you haven't picked up the book, The Tiger Whisker, you must. We're telling you the stories from the book, but we can't show you the pictures in the podcast. You've got to see the pictures. You look great with a mustache. I never would have thought I'd like it, but I do.
I don't know. I'll tell you, though, that I do have a cast and crew that are always asking me, Rick, just put on a mustache before your show.
Oh,
come on. They want me to recreate it here in Branson. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen.
No, it looks great for this role, but I think I like you are. So.
No, thank you. We all change as we grow. And for some people, life can change in an instant. Some people are born luckier than others if that's how you appear it to be.
It appears to be for
that,
some. It does.
Yeah, I grew up in Long Beach, California, and it was the mecca for magic. So I think that I understand that I had a lot of support there. But at one point in my show, I noticed a gentleman sitting in the front row of the audience. And as I was performing the show, I noticed that he just stared towards the stage and he gave no response whatsoever. And in my humbled opinion, my show is a show that people cheer and they applaud loud and they stand and there's emotion. And this man just sat there the entire show with his arms folded, and I just felt like I wasn't connecting with him. It bothered me. It bothered me so much that the rest of the audience ceased to exist. I focused on this man, and I can tell you with all honesty, I truly believe the audience could feel it. I still presented the show. I still said my lines. I still completed a performance, but I know in my heart it wasn't there, and it was all about trying to please this one person, to get a response from him. Kept looking at him and wondering, sir, what more must I do to prove to you that this is truly an enjoyable show? In fact, there's one part of my show where when I start the show with birds, that I make these birds appear, and there's one bird and there's two birds, and it's extremely fast. It's very fast, flashy magic. And then I put my hand underneath the silk and I pull it away, and then I wave to the audience.
Yes.
As though they think another bird's going to appear. And I do that because I want to break the barrier between the show and the audience, because I am truly into communicating with the audience. So because I was not communicating with this particular gentleman, it was a massive frustration to me.
I bet.
And so anyway, I can tell you that I didn't truly enjoy the show that night. And at the end of the night, I finished the show. I was personally exhausted. And then I went out and took a deep breath and started shaking hands at the end of the show. And this family, who happened to have this gentleman with them, walked up to me and introduced him to me. And they said, "This is our grandfather. We want to let you know that he is deaf and blind.
Oh my gosh.
But we brought him here anyway because he can still feel the vibrations of the show, and we know he would have enjoyed it.
Oh my.
We know he had a wonderful time, and we are sorry he did not respond like other people."
Oh wow. What did you do? Holy cow.
Well, one thing is I don't think that they realized that I had that frustration.
Good.
I was performing my show. I would often look down at the man, but he was frustrating me. He was tormenting me. It was thrashing me. And then when I found out, and they introduced this fine gentleman to me and told me that he couldn't respond as others, and I had prejudged this man without really taking the opportunity to find out the true reason behind his behavior, I, at that point, the destruction, I literally threw myself into a tizzy fit. I mean, mentally, I was exhausted. I realized I'd made a terrible mistake, and it was a massive lesson to me. You cannot judge others. Don't judge people. You can never tell when someone is going to surprise you. You never know when someone's going to rise to the top and step forward and be better than you think they are. So often, young magicians even come to my show looking for inspiration, and sometimes I'll tell them, they'll say, how do you do this? Or how do you get where you're at? And I'll say, you don't want to know. And I say, because it's a lot of work. But at the same time, don't dash their dreams.
Right.
There's something else that I have from day one working with my dancers, whether it been in Las Vegas or here in Branson or across the world, it doesn't matter. I always sit down and talk to them when we sign contracts. I said, these are my dreams. These are the dreams of Rick Thomas, my mansion of dreams, my magic, my illusions. Everything in this is all about me. It's all about my life and all about my dreams. If you fit into it, awesome. If this is part of what you want to do in life, you want to dance in the show, you want this to be part of your dreams, that is great. I also accept and understand that these are not your dreams. My show is not your dreams. And if there is anything in any way or form that comes your way where you can step aside and you can go follow your dreams to the fullest, to whatever you want to do with your life, do so. Do not worry about Rick Thomas. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Basically,
go for it.
Follow your dreams and don't let anybody tell you you can't, including Rick Thomas. I am not there to hold you down. I am not there to stop you from following your dreams. And if it's to be no longer in my show, so be it. And I think that that's the important part. And then once you realize that we're all here to take all of our dreams and work our dreams together, then that's plausible. And that's the way it should be. And if I can be part of your resume and part of whatever it takes for you to be something more and grow and then move on, then so be it. And I think that should be important for everybody to realize. We are so engrossed with our own dreams that we often care about ourselves more than others. As I do, it is really, Rick Thomas, my biggest problem. And why I do this is because I need to reprimand myself every single day of my life. Yes, you can follow your dreams, but you need to realize that other people have dreams as well. And you need to be concerned, considerate, and understand and allow them to follow their dreams.
You know what I love, though? I love the fact the family brought him to the show. He couldn't see it. He couldn't hear it, but he could feel it. And I wonder.
I think that's what I remember the most is when they said he could still feel it. He could feel the vibration. He could feel the vibration, and that's what he needed to feel. And he says he would have loved what we saw, but he still enjoyed it.
I bet you never thought about that aspect of the show. That there's a non-visual, non-audio element that somebody like this gentleman could actually feel and enjoy. And I think sometimes we forget that people like him who are deaf or blind or both still have ways of enjoying what we do. I love that the family knew that about him and still took him places and didn't just park him in a corner and say, well, he's done.
We'll pick up grandfather later.
Yeah, right. Let's just leave him over here. He won't know. So it was cool that they brought him and that they knew that he had enjoyed your show in his own way of perception. So we don't discount people for what abilities they don't have.
So to reiterate again, be a little kinder to everyone. You have no idea what they're going through.
So true.
Don't misjudge. Find out a little bit more before you ruin your day, because it ruined mine.
Yeah.
It gave me a good lesson.
You learned.
I learned from it.
Yep.
And in fact, while you were talking about that, they brought him anyway, and he couldn't hear, but he could still feel the vibrations. It's something funny. I tell people about theater. There are different sound systems in a theater. We have the speakers that are out towards the audience, and then we have what are called monitors that are on stage. And the monitors are for those of us on stage who need to hear what the audience hears, because we're behind the speakers. And when the speakers are playing, we can't hear what we're saying or doing, and we can't hear the music.
It's very
so we
different.
have to have what are called monitors. And the biggest frustration for us on stage is when our sound techs forget to turn the monitors on. And we go out on stage and the audience and the music is blaring, but all we hear is a thump, thump, thump. We don't feel anything. We don't hear anything. And the frustration, it's massive. So it just kind of like reminds me as well, that we feel the vibration so much. We miss so much when we can't hear it as well. And I think for that, man, of course you feel for it, but that's just a little bit of an education on the challenges we face as people on a stage. You got to have the monitors. Or there's no show.
When I performed with Ohio Express, that was what sound check was for. Before every show, to make sure in your monitor you had the different elements of the band that you needed most to hear to do your part. And boy, if they screw that up, it's like, I know there's a guitar on stage somewhere, but I can't hear it. Holy cow. It is very important. And that is something I remember my very first time performing on stage with a band with Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods. That was one of the biggest learning things for me, is how much you can't see on stage. You can only see like the first 5 rows if you're lucky. The sound, it is massive coming from behind you. I mean, it almost pushes you. And then the importance of the monitors coming back. It's really an experience the first time you're on a big stage with all that.
And every time I bring somebody onto the stage who's never been on a stage before, it is overwhelming for them. They lose their thought process. It goes out the window. And that's why you can have some fun with them, because you know you're putting them in an extremely uncomfortable position. And also, so often they'll come up on stage and they'll say, I can't see anything.
Right.
And I'll tell them, I said, don't tell the audience. And I say that in front of the audience. And I said, I know I can't see them either, but I tell them I can.
We think they're out there. We're not
right.
sure.
And you kind of admit it to the audience, but it's nice to have people to come up and really see what it is to have lights in your face and not see anything out there, but just pitch black.
Yeah, it's an experience everybody should have. You go to the next show more appreciating what's happening and more understanding what's happening. I think it's cool. I got to ask you one more thing that's in the chapter, and you put this in here. And I know that in theaters where musicians perform, we often sign a wall. There's generally a wall somewhere backstage.
Every theater you go to across the country, you grab a felt pen and you draw on the wall. They have a wall there. And you know what? How great is it? Honestly, when you look at the other artists who have signed that wall, who you are performing on the same stage they performed at, it is overwhelming.
The biggest one, the Taft Theater, Cincinnati, Ohio, we're signing the wall with Ohio Express, and there were all 4 signatures of the Beatles. I was like, oh my God, I'm signing like 12 inches away from all 4 members of the Beatles. I'm signing, me, Tammy Trujillo, next to the Beatles. Oh my God. So it was, those walls are their history. But in the chapter, you talk about on Broadway, you guys signed drawers.
They signed the drawer.
Drawers, like a drawer in a desk.
The dressing room drawers. So you can go in there in the dressing room. You'll open up drawers, and people have signed inside the drawer.
Oh, how cool!
In fact, there's a picture in my book that shows our playbill. Yep. And some people who signed the drawer.
I never heard about that. I didn't know about drawers. I knew about walls. that is so cool. I love it. It's there for posterity.
Unless they tear down the theater and put up another one.
Well, let's hope they save walls and drawers.
That's right.
Let's pray that they save the walls and the drawers, because that is history that can never be remade. Wow. We do prejudge people, and we judge them based on our own whatevers. And I often find, even with my students, when I sit down with a student and really talk to them, I find out quite often some challenges that just blow my mind that they're coping with even at their very young age, and how it colors them. And then I look at them differently. And then I understand sometimes their actions in a different way, an action that maybe I thought was like, what are you doing? Or you're not trying. Now it's like, wait a minute, you're trying your very, very best. You really have to get people's stories. before you know what you're doing.
I know this podcast was good for me. It will make me go out and be a little kinder to everybody today. I tell you again, I don't, if one person listened to this or 10,000, this is as much for me as it is for everybody else. And I'm only sharing with you what I've learned in my extensive career and the ups and downs. And there are entertainers in the business who, I guess when I was in my 20s, I was known to be extremely challenging to work with.
Oh.
And when they go back to find out why, I'm a perfectionist. And my frustrations were I demanded that everybody play at my game at my level.
Yes.
And it was Rick challenging himself and making demands on people who don't have the same challenges, wishes, wants, or desire. They want to be part of it, but it is my baby. It's my machine. I have to make sure it works. So I have to give it everything I've got. Everybody else, I want them to give all that they have. But their mind frame, their mindset is far different than mine running my own show. So I could be extremely aggressive on telling people, you're not here, you're not there, why are you this, why are you that? And I think that in my 20s, I slightly grew up. And by the time I reached my 30s and moved on, that I realized I was too involved in other people's lives. I didn't let them live their life. And I realized that I was just part of it. Yeah. And that's the same with my show. I realized that I'm only a couple hours of anybody's life who comes and sees the show. We're an escape. And I'm just glad I'm part of it. I'm glad I'm part of a positive part of your life. And when people walk out, their life kind of comes flowing back in to their life. And they realize all the challenges and troubles they have once they leave the theater. But I'm that escape.
Yeah.
And the world does not center around Rick Thomas. We'd all hope it would in our own personal way.
Okay.
No, each individually. We're all important to ourselves.
Yeah, I think we are.
But I think that was helpful to me. Just to throw this out as well, I learned that, and if I repeat myself, it's worth repeating. And that was when Siegfried and Roy left Vegas. And they didn't mean to leave Vegas.
Right.
Roy was bit by the tiger, and literally the next week, their show had been canceled.
Yep. Billboards
came down. The Las Vegas moved on as though they had never existed.
Yes.
And they were really, truly what made Vegas what it is today.
I agree.
And it just kind of realizes, life is for the living. And we all need to enjoy what we have, enjoy the moment, and enjoy the ride, because there's going to come a point in your life where you realize you've done everything that you can. You've accomplished so many things, whether it be your career, a family, whatever it may be. And then you realize that it starts repeating itself again. You go, I've been there, done that before. And that's when life becomes full, and you realize that you can really look back on it and go, wow. In fact, there's a famous line, and everybody hears it. I was talking to Frank Schultz. He's my lighting director here at the show. And he's sitting on the floor, and we're just setting up the show. And we're just kind of playing around about how hard it is to set up the show. It's so hard to set up a magic show before the show, or any show. I commend anybody and everybody who follows their dreams. It's really hard. But we're there setting up the show. And the words I said to Frank were, nobody ever wished when they left this world that they wished they'd spent more time working.
Oh, gosh. Put that in blazoned on every wall in your home.
I know. We've all heard it. We all heard it. So though I love the show and I'm enjoying the ride, I'm now truly enjoying life as well. So thank you for being part of the podcast.
Yes,
May this be inspiration to those that listen. I'm truly sincere about this. I am grateful for Tammy putting this all together and making this happen. And of course, our recent award. And
reward.
It's been a reward.
It works.
I don't pursue awards like this, and when it happened, it truly was something of great joy. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, again, this is your story. I'm just here to make it move, but it's your story, and you're telling it beautifully. One thing we should talk about very briefly before we say goodbye for the week is the insanity that is going on financially. We talked about this a little bit before we even started today. Feds raised the interest rate another 0.25%, darn them. And things are just falling apart. And I got a call from a friend this morning here in Los Angeles. Number of radio stations laying off people again. I mean, it's getting nasty, Rick.
I sat down with Tara, my wife, and said, what should we do? And here's a person who kind of knows what he should do. I've diversified my portfolio. I'm trying to protect myself and my family as much as possible. But our dollar, our paper dollar, our fiat currency is worthless. And in fact, not only is it not really even being printed at all anymore, it's just being numbers in a bank. It doesn't exist anymore. And so, yes, I have diversified in gold and silver. Yes, I diversify and I put my money into things of real worth that have very little to do with the government being able to dictate that it's theirs.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And it be lost.
Yes.
And we all know, and I don't have to explain it, and I'm not the only person telling you. There are people out there screaming constantly, please, take what you have and move it somewhere else in some way or form, even if it's just a little bit. Just move something into precious metals, move something into real estate, move something into land, whatever it could be. Get your money, which is a paper currency, which is, again, literally, even though the government says it's worth something, it's not. It doesn't have a word. It can disappear immediately. Whereas if you take that hard-earned money of yours and turn it into a real asset,
tangible,
going to do you far better.
Yeah.
That's my wish. That's my wish.
Because we had so many people scared to death a couple of weeks ago. 2 banks closed. 2 banks fell apart. Big banks. One of the banks that funds most of Silicon Valley crashed and burned. And that's really scary. So you have a plan and it works and you're willing to share that information.
Absolutely. It's called The Magic of Gold and Silver. And you just need to go online. Tammy, you are so good at sharing that information. Do you have it in front of you? Go ahead.
I can tell you first off, it's always in our show notes. Everything
Yes,
you
it
need
is.
about our show is in the show notes. How to get the book Tiger Whiskers in the show notes. How to get in contact with Rick about gold and silver. So it really is an interesting program, and it's very simple. And you can find out a lot more. You just go to mansionofdreams.net/wealth. Little form. No big deal on personal information. Just a couple of simple pieces of info. Click send. Goes right directly to Rick. And then, Rick, you're going to pick up the phone and make a phone call.
Yep. I'll make a phone call and say, gold, get some.
I told you it's short.
Get some. And I just show you my way. I've been educated well. There were a few people who showed up my show some years ago, about 3 years ago, in Vegas, and literally asked me a few words, and it was, what do you know about gold and silver? And I said, well, no, I know we need it. I don't know much about it. And they said, we're going to change your life. Let us share with you what we know about gold and silver and how you can protect your family. And I have decided to do the same, and that share what information I have, what to do, where to buy it, how to buy it, where to store it, how to sell it. And I think that those are questions a lot of people have, and I think I've got the answers to that.
Well, they think it's very complicated. I can tell you for a fact it is not very complicated at all.
No.
Nope. Super simple. And Rick will give you the secret that you need to investigate. Just that simple. Rick, this was fun. It was good getting back together.
It was. And we promise the world around us that this length of time before the next podcast will not happen again.
No, it'll go back to what it's supposed to be. Every Tuesday coming down.
Every Tuesday it'll be coming out.
It'll be there because we're in the second half of the book now. There's a lot more to go and a lot of really cool stuff. So I can't wait to go through it with you.
Tammy, thank you again. Thank you to the Muse Association giving us the award.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone across the country and the world I know that's listening to the podcast. I've been overwhelmed. Even when I was down in Hollywood, I was doing the castle, there were people walking up to me and saying, Rick Thomas, I'm listening to your podcast. And I know it's like, maybe you think, well, of course it's online, but when I'm out here recording and I've got my show running and then I drive halfway across the country and the first thing people want to tell me is, hey, I'm listening to your podcast. It's pretty amazing.
It's cool.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's been working from the start. It will continue to work and it'll only get better. So a lot more to go. So we're back.
Thanks for joining us this week on Nothing Happens Until You Dream, starring Rick Thomas and featuring Tammy Trujillo, and is based on Rick Thomas's best-selling book, The Tiger Whisker, available on rickthomas.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out on Patreon for exclusive members-only content. Stay up to date with Rick and Tammy at nothinghappensUntilYouDream.com. Remember, you must follow your dreams, not only for yourself, but for the rest of our future. We'll see you on the next episode.